"Your hands do scare me," said the alien child. The court went silent. The starship hovered in the void outside the immense council station, its metallic hull glinting faintly under the cold light of distant suns. Commander Elias Kane, the human envoy, adjusted his uniform and took a deep breath. Beyond the transparent observation panel, the sprawling structure of the interstellar court seemed almost alive, its towers spiraling like crystalline trees reaching toward infinity. It was the first time a human had been summoned here, not as a visitor, but as a participant in a matter that could shape humanity's future among the stars. Inside the council chamber, the atmosphere was tense. Hundreds of alien delegates filled the circular hall, their forms so diverse that the human eye struggled to categorize them. Some floated above the ground on thin, translucent membranes, their limbs long and angular. Others resembled multi-legged insects, their chitinous exoskeletons gleaming with bioluminescent patterns. Even from a distance, their gazes carried weight, sharp and assessing, like a predator studying prey. But it was not the delegates that drew Kane's attention most. It was the small figure at the center of the chamber. The alien child stood alone, barely reaching waist height of the average human adult. Her skin shimmered in subtle iridescent shades, shifting with every movement like sunlight on water. Her eyes were large, round, and impossibly bright, holding a clarity and intelligence that belied her appearance. Despite being surrounded by towering alien elders and a room filled with hundreds of delegates, she stood straight, her hands clasped lightly behind her back, her expression calm, almost serene. "This is unusual," whispered Kane to his assistant, a young diplomat named Sora. "Most beings this age, if brought here under suspicion, would be terrified." Sora shook her head, eyes wide. "I've read reports of alien children who face interrogation and most of them break down immediately. But look at her, she's not scared at all." The chief judge, a massive creature with 3 heads arranged in a triangle and skin like molten stone, raised a clawed appendage. The room fell silent instantly. Every delegate stopped moving, even those in the higher galleries. The alien voices hushed into a low hum, resonating through the chamber as though vibrating the walls themselves. "You are accused of trespassing into the stellar research facility on Neutralis Prime," the judge intoned in a voice that echoed in multiple tones simultaneously. "Explain your actions." The child tilted her head slightly, observing the speaker with unflinching curiosity. After a long pause, she spoke, her voice soft but surprisingly clear, cutting through the psychic weight of the chamber. "I wanted to see." A murmur spread through the assembly. "Wanted to see," the judge repeated, his 3 mouths moving in perfect unison. "Do you not understand the severity of your trespass? Many lives could have been endangered by your intrusion." The child's gaze did not waver. "I did not touch anything. I only looked. I wanted to understand how it worked." Kane felt a ripple of admiration. There was courage in those words, yes, but also a certain innocence. The child was not defiant for the sake of defiance. She simply saw the world differently, and that perspective gave her a kind of fearlessness humans rarely encountered. One of the alien delegates leaned forward, its multiple eyes blinking rapidly. "You claim innocence. Yet intelligence readings suggest you possess advanced cognitive patterns far beyond typical juvenile development. Are you aware that such capabilities could make you a threat?" The child considered this for a moment. "I do not want to harm. I only want to learn." Another judge, a floating crystalline entity, shifted in place, causing a soft chime-like sound to resonate across the chamber. "Curiosity is a poor excuse in the face of potential catastrophe. How can we know your intentions are not deceitful?" Her small voice rang louder than before, carrying an unexpected authority. "Your hands do not scare me. I will not be afraid of what you might do." The chamber went silent. The words were simple, yet the impact was profound. These were beings who ruled with intellect, diplomacy, and sometimes intimidation, yet a mere child had spoken without fear. Kane felt a strange sense of hope. Humanity's first step in interstellar politics had always been tentative, cautious, and careful. Perhaps courage could also be a weapon, and perhaps it was the weapon the humans needed to be seen as equals. The chief judge's multiple heads tilted slightly, a gesture that might have been curiosity or irritation. Do you understand what you are saying? That you face a council capable of decisions that can end lives, and yet you stand unafraid? The child nodded. Yes, I am not afraid. I only want to know. A soft hum rose from the walls themselves, a kind of low, vibrating contemplation. The council had not heard such words in centuries, and the chamber seemed to pulse with the weight of the silence that followed. Kane could almost feel the tension in the air, the unspoken debate among creatures who had long dismissed courage as an attribute of the inexperienced. Finally, the chief judge spoke again, slower this time. Very well, you will have representation. All eyes turned to Kane. A wave of surprise swept through the human delegation. Humans rarely had the opportunity to influence alien judicial proceedings so directly, and now, unexpectedly, Kane was being asked to serve as the defender for the child. He swallowed hard and nodded, forcing his voice to remain steady. I will do my best. Sora leaned over, whispering, Are you sure? This is unprecedented. Many have tried to represent humans before the council and failed to make a mark. I know, Kane replied quietly. But this child, there's something about her. She sees things differently. That is why I must try. The council allowed Kane to approach the child. Her eyes widened briefly as he knelt to be at her level. Hello, he said softly. My name is Elias Kane. I'm here to help you. The child smiled faintly. I know you are human. Yes, Kane said, a little surprised. How do you know that? You smell different, you move differently. Humans, I have read about them. You are strange but kind. Kane chuckled quietly. I'll take that as a compliment. She nodded, her attention returning to the council. I do not understand why they are upset, she said. I did not hurt anything. You will help me explain that, Kane said. We need to show them you only meant to learn, not to cause harm. The proceedings resumed, and the court requested a full account of the child's actions. She described her journey to Neutrali's Prime, her fascination with the facility, and the small observations she had made about the advanced machinery within. Her voice remained steady, her words honest and clear. Some of the alien delegates whispered among themselves, their multiple tongues and voices overlapping. Kane could only catch fragments, but the tone was unmistakable, doubt mixed with intrigue. The child's behavior was unlike anything they had ever encountered. As the testimony continued, Kane noticed subtle shifts in the room. Alien diplomats who had initially leaned toward condemnation now exchanged glances, their postures slightly less rigid. The child's unyielding calm, combined with her evident intelligence, was challenging centuries of expectations about fear, obedience, and respect. Hours passed, and still, the child spoke with clarity and purpose. She answered questions about her knowledge of the facility, her understanding of the technology, and her intentions with unflinching honesty. Even when probed about potential risks, she did not falter. I am careful, she said simply. I want to know, but I do not want to hurt. The chief judge studied her in silence, its many eyes narrowing slightly. Your statements are unusual. Courage, when accompanied by intellect, can be a powerful force. But the council must weigh whether this force is controllable, whether it aligns with our laws and ethics. Kane nodded, feeling the gravity of the moment. She is not a weapon, he said firmly. She is a mind that seeks understanding. That is all. For a long moment the chamber remained still. Then slowly the chief judge leaned back, the crystalline chimes around it resonating softly. Very well, we will deliberate. Your representation, human, will be allowed to assist the child during this process. Speak freely, but know that our attention is unwavering. Kane exhaled, feeling a small surge of triumph. The first step was taken. The council had acknowledged that fear and intimidation would not dictate the outcome here. In some quiet way, it was a victory for the very principles humanity hoped to embody: courage, honesty, and moral clarity. The child looked at Cain, her large eyes reflecting both curiosity and relief. "Will they understand?" she asked. "They will try," Cain said. "And we will help them see." As the council began its deliberations, Cain realized that this was not merely a courtroom matter. It was a test of human values in a universe that often measured power by aggression or fear. And in the center of it all stood a child, small and unassuming, yet capable of challenging centuries of expectations with nothing more than honesty, intelligence, and courage. Outside, the stars continued to shimmer, indifferent and eternal. But inside that chamber, history was quietly in the making, and humanity had a chance to show that even among alien civilizations, fearlessness and integrity could command respect. The council chamber remained quiet, though the tension in the air was tangible. The deliberation of the alien judges stretched on, their voices low and harmonious, like distant bells vibrating in multiple frequencies. Commander Elias Kane sat beside the child, whose small form remained calm but alert. Her eyes scanned the chamber, absorbing every detail: the shimmering patterns of the crystalline judge, the subtle hum of the floating delegates, the alien body language that spoke volumes without words. Kane could sense that she was not simply observing, she was learning. A delegate approached, one of the insect-like representatives with 6 articulated legs and a segmented torso. Its voice was a rapid clicking sound, translated through the chamber's universal interpreter. "Your species, human, is most peculiar. You claim to defend this child despite having no direct connection. Why do you risk yourself for her sake?" Kane straightened in his seat, choosing his words carefully. "Because she has done nothing wrong. And because she represents something we all need to see: courage and intelligence together. That combination is rare and it deserves protection, not punishment." The child's eyes flickered toward Kane, a faint smile forming. "You speak well," she said. "But why do they care so much about me?" "They fear what they do not understand," Kane said softly. "And sometimes when beings are powerful, they forget that understanding is stronger than fear." The council reconvened. The chief judge, its molten stone skin glinting, spoke again. "You claim the child acted from curiosity alone. Curiosity is admirable but dangerous in the hands of one with advanced capabilities. Intelligence without restraint can be catastrophic. How can we be certain her intentions are pure?" The child tilted her head, her gaze unwavering. "Because I have no wish to hurt anyone. I only wish to learn. I can see how things work. I want to know, not destroy." One of the crystalline judges floated closer, its surface refracting light in complex patterns. "Knowledge is a double-edged sword," it said. "Even if she wishes no harm, knowledge in the wrong hands can alter the balance of power." Kane leaned forward. "And who decides what is the wrong hand? Surely the right course is to teach and guide, not to punish simply because someone is capable." The chamber seemed to vibrate at his words. The council members, long accustomed to intimidation and control, were suddenly confronted with a perspective they had not considered. It was a human perspective, tempered by empathy and moral clarity. The child spoke again, her voice steady and clear. "I want guidance. I want to understand the universe. I am not dangerous if someone teaches me." A low murmur swept through the gallery. Even among aliens accustomed to powerful beings, there was a subtle acknowledgement of the child's point. The room seemed to sense a shift, though many delegates remained skeptical. "Very well," said the chief judge after a long pause. "You may demonstrate your knowledge under supervision, but know this: any attempt to deceive or manipulate will be met with immediate consequences." The child nodded. "I understand." Kane exhaled quietly, feeling a mix of relief and anticipation. This was more than a procedural victory. It was an opportunity to show the council that morality, courage, and intellect could coexist. The court session continued, and Kane was invited to assist the child in explaining her actions and knowledge. She described how she had traveled to Neutrali's Prime, the curiosity that drew her to the research facility, and the observations she had made about its advanced machinery. She spoke of energy conduits, biointerfaces, and interstellar communication networks. Her explanations were precise, logical, and surprisingly simple, allowing even the alien judges to follow. One delegate, a tentacled creature with multiple eye stalks, asked a difficult question. You claim understanding of interdimensional energy fields, yet your species has not demonstrated such capabilities. How do you account for this knowledge? The child smiled faintly. I read, I observe, I think. Understanding is not about strength or size. It is about attention and care. I notice what others miss. Kane glanced at her, amazed. Her words carried not only intelligence but a wisdom unusual for one so young. She was teaching the court something profound, that insight and empathy could rival power and intimidation. Another judge, a floating sphere covered in swirling patterns of light, responded, Your reasoning is remarkable for one so young, yet your abilities could be dangerous if misapplied. How can we ensure control? I do not need control, the child said. I know what is right. I will not use knowledge to harm. You do not need to fear me. The council was silent again, this time not out of expectation, but contemplation. Kane realized that the child's courage was infectious. It was not merely fearlessness. It was a moral courage that demanded recognition. Hours passed, and the child continued to answer questions, explain theories, and even solve problems that had puzzled alien scientists for decades. She described energy optimization models, interstellar travel algorithms, and the structure of quantum matter in ways that were both accurate and easily understood. The council members leaned closer, their usual rigidity softening under the weight of her intelligence. At one point, Kane asked the child how she had learned so much. I read old data, she said simply. I asked questions. I thought about what I saw. People often overlook simple ideas. I pay attention to what others miss. The chief judge's molten heads tilted slightly. It seems your potential is greater than we assumed. Your actions, though unauthorized, may reveal capacities the council has yet to consider. The child nodded, her eyes gleaming. I only wish to help. I want to learn so I can make things better. A ripple of surprise moved through the chamber. Some delegates had assumed that children, especially those with unusual abilities, would act selfishly or recklessly. This child's combination of courage, curiosity, and moral clarity was reshaping their assumptions. One of the insect-like delegates clicked rapidly, its tone curious rather than accusatory. You say you wish to help, yet your species is young compared to the council. How can we trust your judgment in interstellar matters? Kane answered before the child could. Trust is earned, yes, but fear should not dictate our judgment. We must see the potential for good, not just the risk of harm. She shows courage, intelligence, and empathy. Those are qualities worth respecting. The child looked at Kane with understanding. I am not like them, she said softly. I do not want power. I want knowledge and understanding. The crystalline judge floated closer, its surface refracting light in complex geometric patterns. Knowledge without fear is dangerous. But knowledge without malice can inspire progress. Perhaps we have underestimated you, child. The child's small smile widened. I only wish to learn. Kane felt a swell of pride. Humanity had often been underestimated by other species. Yet here was a child, small and seemingly powerless, standing unafraid among the galaxy's most formidable minds, demonstrating that courage, intelligence, and moral clarity could command respect. As the session drew to a pause, the chief judge spoke again. We will review the child's behavior and consider the testimony provided. Your representation, human, has been noted. Your species may have more to teach us than we realized. Kane exhaled slowly. The tension eased slightly, though he knew the council's deliberation was far from over. This was only the beginning. The child turned to Kane, her eyes shining. "Do you think they will understand me?" "They are starting to," Kane replied. "You are showing them that courage and knowledge are not threats, they are strengths." The chamber began to empty, delegates moving to their private chambers for deliberation. Kane stayed with the child, walking beside her as she floated lightly above the polished floor. "You were amazing today," he said. She looked up at him, her gaze serious. "I am not amazing, I am just not afraid, and I want to understand, that is all," Kane smiled. "Sometimes that is enough to change the world." They returned to the waiting area outside the chamber. Kane noticed other humans observing the proceedings from a distance. Their expressions ranged from awe to uncertainty. None could have predicted the impact of a single child, yet here she had shifted the narrative, making humanity a force not through aggression or power, but through courage, clarity, and intelligence. Hours passed as the council deliberated. Kane and the child sat quietly, sharing stories of her travels, her observations of other worlds, and her fascination with the stars. She asked questions about human culture, human history, and human values. Kane answered patiently, explaining concepts of empathy, morality, and perseverance. "She is extraordinary," Kane said quietly to Sora, who had joined them. "Not just because of her mind, but because of her heart. She shows them a different way, how courage and understanding can stand against fear and intimidation." Sora nodded, her eyes wide. "And humanity is beginning to be recognized in a new light because of her. This could change everything." As night fell over the station, the council reconvened briefly to provide preliminary remarks. The chief judge's voice echoed through the chamber. "The child's actions, though initially concerning, have revealed potential that merits guidance rather than punishment. We will continue deliberations, but for now, she will remain under observation and protection. Her representation by the human is noted with respect." The words were soft but filled the chamber with quiet relief. Kane looked at the child, whose small form seemed to glow faintly under the alien lighting. She smiled, a mixture of relief and quiet satisfaction. "Thank you," she said simply. "You did all the work," Kane replied. "I just helped them see it." She tilted her head. "Then I am glad you are here. You understand." Kane felt the weight of the moment. In a universe often ruled by intimidation, aggression, and suspicion, this small child had reminded the galaxy that courage, intelligence, and empathy were forces to be reckoned with. And humanity, represented through Kane's guidance, had begun to shine as a beacon of those values. Outside the chamber, the stars continued to glimmer, indifferent yet beautiful. But inside, a quiet revolution of thought had begun, led by a small, fearless alien child whose desire to understand had challenged the very foundations of interstellar judgment. And in that silence, Kane knew that the first steps toward true recognition of humanity's worth among the stars had been taken, not by weapons, not by diplomacy alone, but by courage, clarity, and the simple refusal to be afraid. The council chamber's deliberations stretched into the next day, and the air was thick with quiet tension. Commander Elias Kane remained beside the child, watching as the alien judges debated in low, resonant tones that made the walls themselves hum. Though the chamber was vast and filled with beings of every conceivable shape, Kane's attention kept returning to the small figure floating beside him. Despite exhaustion from the previous day's questioning, she radiated focus and calm. Her presence seemed to draw the attention of everyone around her, humans and aliens alike. One of the crystalline judges floated closer, its surface reflecting light like a living prism. "The child's knowledge is significant," it said, its voice layered in harmonic tones. "Her cognitive patterns suggest not only intelligence, but insight into systems we have long considered secure. This knowledge, if misapplied, could destabilize alliances and endanger countless worlds. The child tilted her head, listening but unafraid. She spoke softly, yet every word carried clarity. I do not wish to destabilize anything. I only wish to understand. Knowledge is not dangerous if it is used carefully. A murmur ran through the insectoid delegates, clicking and chittering in multiple tones. Kane noticed that even the most rigid council members were leaning in, their attention rapt. The child's courage was not just physical, it was moral. She had refused to be intimidated by beings capable of psychic and physical dominance, and now she was presenting a perspective that few had considered. Knowledge as a force for understanding rather than control. Observation alone does not guarantee harmlessness, intoned the chief judge. Its three heads moved in slow, deliberate synchronization. Intentions may be pure, but outcomes can be unpredictable. How do you propose we ensure that your capabilities are aligned with interstellar safety? The child's gaze met each of the heads in turn, her voice steady. Teach me, guide me, show me how to act responsibly. I will not harm, I only need understanding. Kane felt a surge of admiration. It was rare to witness fearlessness so intertwined with wisdom. Many species relied on threats, displays of power, or intimidation to assert authority. This child wielded none of these and yet commanded the chamber's attention entirely through honesty and clarity. A floating alien, its body a shifting cloud of light and shadow, spoke next. You are still a child by most standards. How can we know that your mind will remain focused, that it will not seek advantage or misapply knowledge? The child looked at it without hesitation. Because I care about what is right, I do not seek power, I only seek understanding. I want to help, not hurt. Kane leaned closer, quietly whispering, You are showing them something they have never seen, courage guided by conscience. That is rare in any species. She nodded as if understanding. Then I must not waver, I must be clear. The council paused, seemingly weighing her words. Kane realized they were trying to reconcile centuries of experience with the undeniable evidence before them. Here was a being capable of knowledge and insight, yet her small stature and youth challenged every assumption they had about influence and capability. After a long deliberation, the chief judge finally spoke again. Very well. We will allow you to demonstrate your understanding under controlled observation. You will be given access to certain non-critical systems for analysis. Your actions will be monitored. Any misuse will result in immediate containment. The child's expression remained calm. I understand. I will not misuse anything. Kane guided her toward the designated observation chamber. The room was filled with holographic displays, interstellar maps, and complex energy matrices. Aliens from multiple factions observed silently from elevated platforms, their expressions difficult to read. Yet Kane sensed that all eyes were fixed on the child. She approached the main console, her small hands hovering over the controls. Kane watched as her fingers traced the holographic lines, moving with precision and purpose. She began analyzing patterns of energy flow, interstellar communication signals, and transportation algorithms. Within minutes, she identified inefficiencies and potential improvements, her solutions elegant in their simplicity. One of the alien delegates, a serpentine being with reflective scales, leaned forward. Your observations are remarkable, but are you certain you comprehend the implications? A minor miscalculation could disrupt entire planetary networks. The child's gaze remained steady. I understand. I will account for all variables. I will not harm. Kane felt a mixture of pride and awe. The child was not merely demonstrating intelligence, she was showing moral responsibility. She was proving that understanding, when paired with integrity, could surpass raw power or intimidation. Hours passed as the child worked, her focus unbroken. She communicated her findings clearly, offering solutions that minimized risk and maximized efficiency. The council members leaned in, their skepticism gradually transforming into curiosity and, in some cases, respect. At one point, she paused and looked up at Kane. "Why do they listen to me?" Kane smiled. "Because you are not afraid. You are honest. You show them a different way, a way where courage and knowledge go together. That is powerful." She considered this, then nodded. "Then I will continue. I must show them." The observation session continued late into the cycle. Delegates questioned her about interstellar energy networks, diplomatic communication protocols, and even theoretical propulsion methods. Each time, she responded with clarity and care, never faltering under the weight of scrutiny. Her small voice, calm and unwavering, filled the vast chamber with an energy that Kane realized was transforming the council itself. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the chief judge spoke. "The child's demonstrations are thorough and precise. Her actions indicate not only advanced knowledge but an understanding of responsibility and consequence. We are compelled to reconsider our initial assumptions." A ripple of surprise moved through the gallery. Even those who had been most skeptical could not deny the evidence before them. The child's behavior challenged centuries of prejudice and fear-based judgment. Kane felt a deep sense of hope. This was a rare moment when integrity and courage had begun to reshape entrenched systems. The child floated down beside Kane, her expression serene but thoughtful. "They are beginning to understand?" she asked. "Yes," Kane said quietly. "They are beginning to see that strength comes in many forms. Courage, knowledge, and honesty, those are as powerful as any weapon." A crystalline judge, its surface refracting light into intricate patterns, added, "Your actions provide a new perspective on the nature of capability. Perhaps fear is not the truest measure of power. Perhaps it is courage and ethical understanding that should guide judgment." The child listened, absorbing each word. Kane noticed a quiet determination in her eyes. She understood the responsibility that came with her abilities. She was small, yes, but her impact was monumental. Later, in a quieter chamber, Kane spoke to her privately. "You know, not every species would react to your courage the way these delegates have. Some would try to dominate, to force compliance." The child nodded. "I know, but I am not afraid. I will not let fear guide me. I will show them another way." "And you are doing that," Kane said softly. "You are teaching them to see beyond intimidation. That is something humanity has been trying to do for centuries." She smiled faintly. "Then we are alike. We both want to understand to make things better." Kane felt a quiet warmth. Humanity had often been underestimated in the galaxy, and yet here was an example, small but powerful, showing that courage and intellect could command respect without violence. The council reconvened in the evening for preliminary conclusions. The chief judge spoke, its three heads moving with slow deliberation. "The child's behavior, her knowledge, and her demonstration of responsibility compel us to consider guidance rather than punishment. She shall remain under observation and mentorship, with representation allowed by the human species. Her conduct is exemplary for one of her age and experience." A collective murmur of surprise moved through the delegates. Kane realized that the child had achieved something remarkable. She had shifted the council's perception, turning suspicion into cautious respect. The child turned to Kane, her eyes bright. "They will watch me now, but they do not fear me." "No," Kane replied. "They respect you. That is more powerful than fear. You have shown them that courage and honesty can influence even the most formidable beings." She nodded, understanding the significance. "Then I will continue to learn. I will not fail them." As the chamber emptied, Kane reflected on the day's events. This was more than a legal proceeding. It was a lesson in the power of integrity. The child had demonstrated that true influence comes not from intimidation or strength, but from knowledge, courage, and moral clarity. Humanity's role in this new era of interstellar diplomacy was strengthened not through force, but through example, patience, and guidance. The child looked out through the observation window at the endless stars beyond. "They are so many," she said softly. "So many worlds, so many beings, I want to know them all." "You will," Cain replied, "step by step. You are showing them and us. That understanding is the greatest strength of all." And in that quiet moment, amidst the hum of alien machinery and the soft glow of distant stars, the small, fearless alien child continued to shine, her presence a testament to the power of courage, knowledge, and unwavering integrity. The galaxy, vast and indifferent, seemed just a little more attentive, as if recognizing that a new force had entered the interstellar stage, one that measured power not by fear, but by the heart and mind. The observation chamber had grown quiet as the day wore on, but the tension in the interstellar court had not lessened. The council members remained seated in their high galleries, their attention fixed on the small alien child who now floated confidently beside Commander Elias Kane. Despite the passage of hours and the weight of scrutiny, she remained composed, her large, luminous eyes scanning the consoles, the holographic displays, and the patterns of energy flowing before her. Every motion was deliberate, careful, and precise. Kane felt a growing sense of admiration. This child, though small, was becoming the embodiment of courage, intelligence, and ethical clarity in a universe often ruled by fear and intimidation. A crystalline judge moved closer, its surface reflecting the soft lights of the chamber in countless geometric patterns. "You have demonstrated knowledge beyond expectation, and yet the council must remain vigilant. Advanced understanding in the hands of a young mind, no matter how well-intentioned, can be unpredictable. How do you propose to manage this responsibility?" The child looked up, her gaze steady, unflinching. "I will not misuse what I know. I will listen. I will learn. I will ask for guidance when I do not understand. Knowledge is not dangerous if it is handled carefully." A ripple of murmurs passed through the delegates. Some clicked their tongues in astonishment, others floated slightly forward, as though drawn by her confidence. Kane could sense the subtle shift in the council's attitude. The child's words carried weight because they were spoken without fear, without pretense, and without arrogance. They were a clear reflection of her principles: honesty, courage, and moral responsibility. An insectoid delegate with multiple jointed legs and glowing eyes leaned closer, clicking rapidly. "Your species has lived among the stars for only a short period. How do you know what is right? How do you know that your actions do not disrupt the balance of interstellar alliances?" The child's small lips curved into a thoughtful expression. "I do not claim to know everything, but I do know that harming others is wrong. If I make mistakes, I will correct them. If I am guided, I can act in ways that help, not hurt." Kane felt a surge of pride. Humans had long struggled to gain trust from other species in interstellar politics. Yet here, through the voice of a small but fearless child, humanity's principles, care, understanding, and courage were finally being recognized. The chief judge's three heads moved slowly in deliberate contemplation. "You display insight, restraint, and moral awareness. These qualities are rare, and yet you possess them in abundance. Yet the council must ensure that even good intentions do not result in unintended consequences. Will you accept guidance from both human and alien mentors?" "I will," she replied simply. "I want to learn from everyone. I want to understand so I do not make mistakes." A soft hum resonated throughout the chamber. Even among centuries-old beings accustomed to dominance and intimidation, there was a sense of wonder at the child's clarity and fearlessness. Kane noticed that some delegates exchanged subtle signals, as though silently acknowledging that a new paradigm of intelligence and courage was unfolding before them. "Very well," said the chief judge. "You shall be allowed supervised access to additional systems. You will analyze and optimize them while mentors from multiple species observe. Your actions will be recorded and reviewed. Your success or failure will guide the council's final judgment. The child nodded, floating lightly toward the designated console. Kane followed, his presence a steady reassurance. "Remember," he said quietly, "you are showing them something new, not just your mind but your courage, your honesty. That is more powerful than anything else you could demonstrate." She smiled faintly. "I will try. I will not disappoint." The console glowed with holographic interfaces, displaying interstellar energy networks, communication protocols, and navigation matrices. The child's fingers moved delicately over the controls, adjusting parameters, analyzing complex systems, and proposing improvements. Kane watched, impressed not only by her intellect but by the care and responsibility with which she approached every task. One of the alien delegates, a floating mass of swirling light, observed silently. "Her comprehension is remarkable," it said finally. "But does she understand the ethical ramifications of altering these systems? Even minor adjustments could impact millions." The child paused, considering the question. "I do understand. I will not act without thinking. I will ask if I am unsure. Helping is more important than showing what I can do." Kane felt a quiet sense of awe. The child was not simply intelligent, she was wise. Her understanding of responsibility, consequences, and morality surpassed that of many seasoned diplomats or scholars. She was teaching the council that knowledge alone was not the measure of worth. How one used knowledge was the true test of character. Hours passed. The child continued her work, analyzing energy flows, communication networks, and interstellar travel algorithms. She suggested optimizations that minimized energy consumption, improved safety protocols, and enhanced communication clarity across multiple star systems. Each suggestion was accompanied by a clear explanation, demonstrating both logical reasoning and ethical consideration. Delegates leaned in, some whispering to one another in tones of surprise and admiration. Kane could see that even the most skeptical members were being won over by the child's clarity, calm, and insight. The room, once tense and filled with suspicion, now vibrated with a quiet energy of curiosity, respect, and cautious optimism. At one point, a crystalline judge asked, "You have demonstrated skill in observation and reasoning, but what of creativity? Can you propose new methods that benefit multiple civilizations without unintended harm?" The child paused, then gestured toward the holographic projections. "Yes, I see ways to connect systems that have never been linked. Small changes can make travel safer, communication faster, and resources more accessible. I will not harm anyone, and I will explain each step so all can understand." The council murmured again. Some floated slightly forward, intrigued. Kane whispered to the child, "See, you are not just performing calculations. You are teaching them how thinking with care and courage can create solutions they never imagined." She nodded. "I want to help. That is all I want." The chief judge leaned forward slightly, its three heads moving in careful synchronization. "Your clarity and moral reasoning are unusual, yet impressive. Many adults in the galaxy would struggle to maintain such composure under our scrutiny. You demonstrate that courage and integrity are as powerful as any authority or weapon." The child's small form seemed to glow faintly under the chamber lights. Kane realized that the council was not just observing her actions. They were witnessing a living example of values that humanity had long sought to uphold: honesty, bravery, and ethical responsibility. Later, Kane guided the child to a quiet corner of the chamber, away from the observation consoles. "You have done well today," he said. "You are showing them a new way to measure strength and intelligence. Not by fear, not by intimidation, but by courage, care, and honesty." The child smiled faintly. "I only want to understand, but if they see that, then perhaps they will understand too." Kane nodded. "Exactly, that is what makes you extraordinary." Evening fell over the interstellar court. The chambers were bathed in a soft, ambient light that reflected off crystalline surfaces and illuminated the patterns of energy flowing through the observation consoles. The delegates began to depart for private discussion, but many lingered, casting occasional glances toward the child. Kane could see that the impact of her presence was profound. The child floated to the observation window, looking out at the endless expanse of stars beyond the court. "There are so many worlds," she said softly, "so many beings, I want to know them all." "You will," Kane replied, "but step by step. You are showing everyone here that understanding is more important than fear, and that is a lesson the galaxy needs to learn." She nodded, her gaze steady. "Then I will continue to learn. I will not fail them." The council reconvened briefly to issue preliminary remarks. The chief judge spoke, its voice resonating throughout the chamber. "The child's actions and insights have provided clarity. Her behavior is exemplary, demonstrating both knowledge and moral awareness. She shall remain under supervised observation and mentorship, with representation provided by humanity. Her presence challenges us to reconsider the metrics by which we measure capability, courage, and influence." A murmur of acknowledgement passed through the delegates. Kane noticed subtle gestures of respect, even from those who had initially doubted her. The child's courage, honesty, and intelligence had begun to reshape the council's perception, not just of her, but of humanity as a species capable of guiding, teaching, and inspiring. The child turned to Kane. "They will watch me, but they do not fear me." "No," Kane said quietly. "They respect you. That is stronger than fear. You have shown them that integrity and courage can influence even the most powerful beings." She nodded, understanding the significance of the moment. Though small, she had become a symbol of hope, intelligence, and moral clarity, a living example of the principles humanity valued most. Kane reflected on the day's events. The council chamber, once a place of judgment and suspicion, had transformed into a space of learning and understanding. The child had demonstrated that courage, intelligence, and ethical responsibility could stand alongside, if not surpass, physical power and political authority. Humanity's place in the galaxy was strengthened not through aggression or coercion, but through example, guidance, and moral clarity. The child returned to the observation console, her small hands moving over the holographic controls once more. Kane stood beside her, silently watching as she continued her work with precision, thoughtfulness, and unwavering courage. The Council, and perhaps the galaxy itself, was beginning to see a new path forward, one where understanding, empathy, and integrity mattered more than fear or intimidation. And in that quiet chamber, amidst the hum of alien machinery and the glow of distant stars, the child continued to shine. She was a testament to the power of courage, knowledge, and unwavering ethical responsibility. Humanity, through her, was showing the galaxy that even the smallest among them could make the greatest impact when guided by integrity, wisdom, and fearlessness. The council chamber hummed softly with the energy of deliberation. Commander Elias Kane stood beside the small alien child, whose luminous eyes scanned the holographic projections that filled the room. It had been days since the child first entered the interstellar court, days filled with observation, questioning, and demonstration of knowledge and moral clarity. Now, the final session had arrived, where the council would issue its ultimate judgment. The chief judge, its three heads swaying in synchronized movement, spoke first. "The council has observed the actions, reasoning, and intentions of the child. Her behavior demonstrates not only advanced understanding, but an ethical awareness that surpasses expectations for one of her apparent age and species." A murmur passed through the delegates, a mixture of surprise, curiosity, and cautious admiration. Kane noticed the subtle shift in posture among many of the most skeptical members. The child's presence, her courage, and her unwavering honesty had changed the tone of the chamber from suspicion to respect. One of the crystalline judges floated closer, refracting light across the room like a prism. Her demonstrations of interstellar system optimization, her careful analysis of energy flows, and her solutions for communication networks indicate a mind capable of significant contribution. We must consider not only her abilities, but also her intentions and moral compass. The child remained calm, her small form floating lightly in the chamber. She looked around at the council, then at Cain, and spoke softly. "I do not want power. I do not want to control. I want to understand and help. That is all." Cain felt a swell of pride. In every word, she revealed the principles that humanity valued: courage, integrity, and the desire to create good rather than dominate. Even the most cautious delegates seemed to absorb her message, realizing that fear and intimidation were not the only measures of influence. An insectoid delegate clicked rapidly, its multiple eyes blinking in rhythm. "You claim to wish to help, yet you possess knowledge that could alter interstellar balance. How can we ensure that your contributions are beneficial rather than disruptive?" The child tilted her head slightly. "I will act carefully. I will ask when I am unsure. I will not do anything that harms others. Learning is my goal, not control." The chief judge nodded slowly. Her words are consistent with her actions. Courage without malice, knowledge without deception. The council recognizes that this combination is rare and worthy of guidance rather than punishment. A soft hum resonated through the chamber. Even the floating entities, whose forms shimmered like starlight, seemed attentive, almost reverent. Cain realized that the child's influence was profound. She was not only proving her innocence, she was teaching the council a lesson in integrity, courage, and moral responsibility. The chief judge raised a clawed appendage, signaling the chamber to silence. "The council has reached a decision. The child shall remain free, under supervised observation and mentorship. Her representation by the human species is approved. Her knowledge and insights may be shared responsibly, and she shall be recognized as a symbol of courage, clarity, and ethical understanding among all participating civilizations." A wave of whispers moved through the gallery. Delegates who had once pushed for strict punishment now nodded in acknowledgement. Cain felt a deep sense of relief and satisfaction. Humanity's voice had been heard, not through threats or force, but through example, guidance, and unwavering integrity. The child's eyes brightened slightly. "Then I am free?" she asked softly. "Yes," Cain replied, "and you have earned respect not just from them but from all of us who have witnessed your courage and wisdom." A crystalline judge drifted closer. "You have challenged assumptions, child. You have shown that even the smallest among us can wield influence through integrity, intelligence, and moral courage. We will remember this lesson." The child nodded solemnly. "I hope others learn it too. That is why I do not fear." Cain guided her toward the observation window overlooking the stars. The council members were still present in their elevated seats, watching the small figure with a mixture of admiration and contemplation. "You have changed how they see strength," Cain said quietly. "Not through intimidation or power, but through honesty and courage." The child gazed out at the infinite expanse of space. "There are so many worlds," she whispered. "So many beings. I want to know them all. I want to help them." "You will," Cain assured her. "And you will continue to show them that understanding and compassion are as important as any weapon or authority." The council reconvened briefly to formalize the judgment and establish protocols for supervised mentorship. Aliens from various factions volunteered to provide guidance, sharing their knowledge of interstellar technology, diplomacy, and ethics. Cain watched as the child listened attentively, absorbing lessons from each mentor, yet maintaining her small, unflinching sense of self. A serpentine delegate spoke, its scales glinting in the chamber light. "Her potential is extraordinary. She demonstrates that courage and intelligence are not bound by age or size. We will observe her progress with great interest." The child nodded. I will continue to learn. I will act carefully. I will help where I can. As the chamber emptied, Cain and the child remained for a moment, floating near the observation window. The stars stretched endlessly before them, a silent reminder of the vast possibilities that lay ahead. You know, Cain said softly, you've done something remarkable. You've shown the galaxy that courage, knowledge, and integrity can be more powerful than fear or intimidation. You've shown them what humanity can be. The child looked up at him, her expression thoughtful. Then we are alike. We both want to understand and make things better. Yes, Cain said, and that is why your example matters, not just for them but for all of us. She smiled faintly. Then I will continue. I will not fail. The council had provided access to controlled systems for her continued study. Over the following cycles, she worked tirelessly, analyzing complex networks, proposing solutions, and assisting alien mentors in improving safety protocols, communication systems, and resource distribution. Every action she took was careful, considered, and ethical. Cain observed her with pride, recognizing the rare combination of intelligence and moral courage that allowed her to influence even the most skeptical beings. Delegates frequently visited to observe her progress. Many came expecting to find flaws or errors, but were instead met with precision, honesty, and thoughtful solutions. The child answered questions clearly, offered explanations, and always sought to ensure her actions benefited all parties. Cain realized that her presence was gradually changing the culture of the court itself, fostering a sense of respect, collaboration, and ethical responsibility. One day, a senior crystalline judge addressed the chamber. We have observed the child's continued progress. Her courage, intelligence, and moral clarity are exemplary. She is not only a student but a teacher. Through her, we have learned to value integrity over fear and understanding over intimidation. The child listened quietly, a faint smile on her face. I only wish to learn and help, but if others learn from me, then that is good too. Cain placed a hand gently on her shoulder. You've already made a difference. You've changed how they think, how they judge, how they see the universe. That is a rare and precious thing. She looked up at him, eyes shining. Then I will continue. There is so much to know and so much to help. As the days passed, word of the child's courage and insight spread beyond the council chamber. Humans and aliens alike began to recognize that true influence came not from threats or power, but from knowledge, ethical responsibility, and moral courage. Cain watched as the child interacted with beings from various worlds, her calm presence and clear reasoning inspiring trust and respect. The council, once dominated by fear and intimidation, now operated with a subtle shift in perspective. They consulted her on matters of ethics, interstellar communication, and system optimization, acknowledging her contributions and listening carefully to her guidance. Cain realized that humanity's role in the galaxy had grown not through force, but through example, through the courage, intelligence, and ethical clarity demonstrated by this small, fearless child. One evening, as they observed a distant star system, the child spoke softly. The galaxy is full of challenges. There will be conflicts, misunderstandings, and dangers. But if beings choose courage, understanding, and honesty, then perhaps things can be better. You are right, Cain said, and you are showing them the way. Step by step, your actions are changing minds and hearts across species. The child's gaze returned to the stars. I will continue to learn, I will continue to help, and I will not be afraid. Cain smiled, feeling a profound sense of hope. Humanity had always struggled to earn respect among other civilizations. But here, through courage, honesty, and intelligence, they were beginning to be recognized. And it all started with a small child who refused to be intimidated, who faced the council with clarity and moral courage, and who reminded the galaxy that strength comes in many forms. The council chamber was quiet now, the delegates having departed to their quarters. Cain and the child remained at the observation window, floating above the polished floor. The stars stretched endlessly before them, a canvas of possibilities, of worlds waiting to be understood, of civilizations waiting to learn. "You have changed things," Cain said softly. "Not through power, but through courage and clarity. You've reminded them and us what true strength really means." The child looked at him, eyes wide and steady. "Then I will continue. I will show them the way, and I will not be afraid." And as the stars shimmered across the vast expanse of space, the small, fearless alien child remained a symbol of hope, integrity, and courage. Humanity, through her example, had earned recognition not through threats or domination, but through the power of intellect, ethical responsibility, and unwavering bravery. The galaxy, indifferent and infinite, had taken notice. And in that quiet recognition, a new chapter had begun, one where courage, honesty, and understanding became the true measures of influence, and where even the smallest beings could leave the largest mark. The child floated back to Cain, a small smile forming on her face. "I am ready," she said softly. "Ready to learn, ready to help, ready to face whatever comes next." Cain placed a hand gently on her shoulder. "And you will. Together, we will show them what courage, intelligence, and integrity can achieve." The council, the stars, and the infinite possibilities of the universe waited, but one thing was clear. A new force had entered the galaxy, not one of fear or power, but of courage, knowledge, and moral clarity. And it had already begun to change everything.